Hello, Changemaker.
Welcome to the Innovation Room.
A place for business leaders,
Change agents and change champions.
anyone who wants to know where digital transformation is taking us,
A place that sparks ideas.
and explores what's really possible with software and technology.
Ready?
Let's see what's happening.
Welcome to our Future with AI series. In this episode, we will be focused on retail. Retail sector is no stranger to technology advancement, including the recent emerging tech such as AR, VR, and AI. Massive amount of data, large number of customers, millions of transactions, global reach, they're all reasons to make it perfect playground for AI adoption. On the other hand, dealing with personal data and its usage has always been a source for technology experts' debates on ethics. It is massively impacted by global, regional, and local regulations also, as well as the culture within which they operate. The players in the sector are in a big range, from Amazons of the world to the corner independent shop. This is why it is one of the very complex yet attractive sectors for this series, imagining the future of retail with AI. My guest today is Paul Kerrison, Director of Engineering and Architecture at one of the UK's largest and most prestigious retailers. With over 2 decades of experience as a visionary technologist, innovator, and leader in the retail sector, Paul is possibly the most technical person of welcome to the Innovation Room. Paul has not only delivered transformational change, but also consistently championed innovation and excellence in his organization. They just won the UK IT Awards this month, so a testament to his commitment to application of technology with the right principles. I am Somayeh, CEO of Geeks. Please join me in the Innovation Room with Paul Kerrison to hear how AI is shaping customer experiences and what the future holds for the retail. Well, thank you, Paul, for joining me in the Innovation Room. Very welcome. Why don't we start with an introduction about yourself? And I'm thinking you're probably the most technical person I've had on the podcast.
Oh, that set me up now, hasn't it? Yeah, sure. So I'm Paul Kerrison. I'm the Director of Engineering and Architecture at Dunelm. We're a leading UK homewares retailer. From my background point of view, I suppose, given my job title, my background is all in software engineering and architecture, but I've always had like a passion for emerging technology and how that can disrupt established industries. I have a particular interest in how it can be used, or how we can use technology to improve people's day-to-day lives. So eliminating the mundane stuff that everyone has to do, and also being able to democratize capabilities, like things like that would have been very tricky to do in the past and now becoming easier because technology gives you the tooling to do it. Video editing is one of a personal preference that I like to play around with, but I'm not very good at it, but at least I can have a go.
Yeah, cool. Well, wonderful. It explains one of the reasons why I've asked you to come along, because our audience are change makers, the business people, so not necessarily very technical. Hence, I don't bring technical people on the podcast unless I am 100% sure they can speak business language. And the interaction we had a few weeks back, I realized actually you're one of those technologists, rare ones, who can speak business language and understand the business language. And I'm allowed to offend technologists because I'm one of them. So I'm, I'm one of the tribes, I can say it. So really, really looking forward to have this conversation with you and looking at the future of retail with AI, because I think it's one of those that everybody thinks, well, they have seen it all, whereas they can't imagine how much more is yet to come. Before we go into that conversation, we have a tradition to ask our audience to, ask our guests to share with us who would they bring in to the Innovation Room with themselves if they had the choice, dead or alive, fiction or real. And I tell you the reason. The reason is I have heard so many good answers, and it's very, very stimulating to hear how people would like to innovate if they are, collaboration for innovation, and how would they approach it. So what's yours?
Yeah, I'll stick to the alive category for now. Just there's one particular lady who I think is an absolute inspiration, and also she works in AI as well, so it sort of lends itself to this discussion. But her name is Ali K. Miller. She's ex Amazon. She used to head up their machine learning team. She's now like an AI entrepreneur. But the things I really like about her is that she's really inclusive. She brings people on the journey, which can be a highly technical, highly sort of niche language being used, but she opens it up, and everybody sort of brings people along on that journey, which I think is really key. And she has a real good knack of being able. She's quite active on all social media platforms, and she's really good at demystifying technical topics, so bringing them to life in a way that people can understand and is practical. And she sort of lives by that. She travels all around the world, sort of helping people understand AI and its application, and investing in the AI companies as well. So yeah, I'd have Ali on.
Wonderful. I'll try to see if I can get her on the podcast then.
Go for it.
We do a round table. Cool. So going to the future of retail with AI. I like to frame the conversation around a tool that we have created called Dare or Die Bullseye, and we basically look at the expectations, the constraints, and the offering of the sector or a business, and then the role of human in it. And it's a really good lens of like trying to go broad and then come back down to what does it mean for the sector and the business. So if we could follow that, starting with what do you think, or what's your views on how the expectations of the stakeholder, everybody, including the customers, the shareholders, retail has got all the logistics and everything around that. How the expectations are you sensing that is changing with the advancements of the AI?
Yeah, and I think that the key word there is expectations, because it is becoming an expectation now. People are, whereas in the past it would have been quite easy to, it would have been nice to have if something was particularly personalized, or if you were finding products that were relevant to what you wanted. I think now it's becoming more of a demand. And as a consumer myself, I don't want to have to teach every single system my preferences and my personal wants and desires, and then sort of route around product hierarchies to find the thing that I'm looking for. I expect it to be personalized to my desires. So I think that's quite kind of key. And obviously it's probably increased exponentially in this last year or two as the sort of AI capabilities have advanced as well. And I think businesses can sort of understand, predict, and respond to customer needs much faster. So rather than having to translate all of these vast stores of data and come up with some insight and then put some action on it, it can happen much more near real time. And we should that needs to be reflected in the services that the businesses are offering as well. So I think there's various things here. There's one about the user interface evolution. It's similar to the early days of Google, where you had to become like you have to have the Google foo and the sort of knowing how to craft your search queries and that sort of thing. And obviously now you can just search for whatever you like. Similarly with AI, and particularly generative AI, there's a whole industry now around prompt engineering and so on. But I think that will evolve, that will change. It will just become more of a seamless part of the products and services that we offer.
I think it's a very valid point about personalization. But I'd like to mention the point that retail has been the sector, compared to a lot of other sectors, retail has been the sector that has had a huge amount of digitalization in the past, say, 15 years, has been using AI, for a good long amount of time. And maybe the reason behind the whole thing is the amount of transactions, so the amount of data transaction. These big retailers that we've had, these chains, these massive mega retailers, have been able to have the capital to invest in digitization and technology and AI specifically, as well as the amount of data that they deal with enable them to do that. But I think when we talk about people and we talk about digital gap, like we have people who don't even have a computer, they haven't seen a computer, and then we have people who, they have all sorts of gadgets. It's like that. I feel it's like that with the retailer sector, because you have retailers, like, if you can categorize like Amazon's and even Tesco's as retailers, they have massive teams of AI engineers, and they have been even doing that for a long time. Whereas you have your whatever shop around the corner that is a retailer, it is selling stuff that doesn't use any specific technology apart from taking the cards and do some sort of inventory digitally. So how do you see that being an opportunity or a problem?
I think, yeah, like with many things, as these technologies become more mature and more established, they become more accessible to more companies as well. So yeah, I mean, the AI capabilities are, the founding principle of those is data and lots of it. But as the models get trained and they get and they mature, they'll be available to all kinds of different retailers as well. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we start seeing packaged up versions of AI tooling that maybe was initially developed by the largest retailers coming into the smaller sort of the store around the corner. I'm not quite sure what they'd use it for right now, but certainly coming in a pre-packaged product that they can apply to their smaller retail operation. I think that we'll start to see that increasingly. Similarly to how taking electronic payments was once in the remit of the larger retailers, but now everyone can do that. And a similar,
which makes assessing the expectations really difficult, because say you're a retail business leader, depending on the size and the space you're operating in, the expectations could be completely different. So how do you decide how to approach technology and how? So that would be really interesting. Like your company, so say for example, if 0 is your corner shop and 10 is Amazon, where does your, in terms of use of technology, where would you put your company?
Yeah, I think so. Dunelm, it's quite surprising. So I joined a couple of years ago, and it certainly punches above its weight, I think, from a technology point of view. There's stuff going on within Dunelm which we're currently going through a digitalization of our own estate, and there's stuff going on that you wouldn't necessarily know about from looking from outside. And one of the things we're keen to do is to stop hiding our light under a bushel quite so much. So let's talk about it. And in talking about it, not only do we raise the profile, but we also encourage others to contribute as well, so we can get advice from third parties and people who've done it before or would like to learn from what we're doing as well. So I suppose, on the 1 to 10, I think we'd probably be a 6 or 7 compared to Amazon on a 10. But we do make heavy use of AWS's products and services as well. So
yeah, when we talk about Amazon, it's like a mega, like, which Amazon are we talking about? Like, they're very different Amazons depending on what you're dealing with. But so if you say you're a, sorry, go on.
I think we compete on different dimensions there as well. So whereas Amazon, the website is a purely transactional kind of operation, very good one. We've got more of a digital bridge between our online and our in-store offer. So that's where we see ourselves differentiating. We've still got the humans in the loop. We've still got brick and mortar stores that you can, especially with homewares, you can go in and touch and feel the fabric and all that sort of thing. So
which is very interesting. So for me, what I'm interested in is, if you're in the scale, if you're at a 6-7, how do you evaluate? What's your understanding of the expectation of your customers? Because your customers are kind of Amazon customers, albeit for a different reason, for buying a different product. They are exposed to the Amazon kind of experience, so they start having the same sort of expectation, or maybe different expectation, when they deal with you. So what's your understanding of how these expectations are formed and changed?
Yeah, I think there's no getting around it. People's expectations are driven by by the Amazon experience, or any large retailer, and it'll sort of depend on what customer we're talking about. We have obviously online customers that will be directly comparing us with Amazon, and then we have in-store customers who might be a slightly different demographic and have different expectations of what a shopping experience is about. I think the when it comes to the online experience where we typically compare ourselves, there's there is this expectation. So people expect product search. They expect to be able to type in something they want, and the top result, they've been trained by Google. The top first page is the only one anyone ever looks at. And similarly with things like delivery promises and fulfillment and all those sort of things post purchase, people are now used to being able to subscribe or get next day delivery or get credit or all the different payment options, all of that sort of stuff. So we find ourselves in a place where we are doing as much of that as we can. We try and prioritize it according to business need and customer value. But yeah, we take inspiration from all over the place. So not just Amazon, but other places that do.
Which is interesting because we slightly moved to the constraint part of the bullseye, which is like, what's your market look like? What's your sector look like? Is it advanced in dealing with technology? Is it resistance as a sector is resistant to technology? And retail is a very up for technology. It has been up for a long time. It's one of the sectors that we've seen the most, advancements in technology happening, or even been driven by it. So many new innovations comes from the retail sector, or they have the base to be the lab to experiment some of the ideas and some of the new technologies. What kind of experiences do you think companies need to think about when they want to retail companies when they want to think about their digital state or digital evolution, as we like to call it, like when they are designing their roadmaps and where do they want to be, what do they want to do, like what kind of experiences do they, when you talked with your senior leadership, what kind of experiences are you wanting to be known for creating for your customers?
I think from the customer, so there's the two sides to that. Again, there's the colleague facing stuff that we do, and then the customer facing side. I think with the customers, we're really keen not to lose the connection with them. Fundamentally, it's about building relationships and trying to, looking at things like the shopping frequency and stuff. Obviously, people don't buy homewares typically
Yeah,
every week, but we still want.
some of us do. It might not be the typical, but some of us have that guilty pleasure.
So I think we're really keen that we have what we call a total retail system. So this is the idea of joining up online experiences with the in-store experiences. And so we're typically looking at experiences where we want to do, the area where we want to do more of this is in particular sort of shopping journeys and being able to, I don't want to say the word omnichannel, but being able to browse and do your research and your discovery activity online, potentially pop into a shop, have a conversation with an expert who knows how to make curtains, and then maybe complete that journey online again. But being able to switch between the online and offline worlds is something we're really looking at the moment to create this total retail system. Equally, it could go the other way.
I think it's a very interesting point, because as a customer myself, like there are so many times I want to be able to blend in between. So I might go to a shop because I want to sit on a sofa and see how does it feel. And obviously me and my husband never agree on the feel of the sofa. So we need to find that mutual, experience we want to have when we sit on a sofa. So we do that, but we really, really don't like to buy it in the store because we hate standing in the queue and we hate to go through the whole thing. We like to do it online. So I completely see that being creating a blend experience of online and offline, being able to experience, and I totally see
And
that.
the other challenge we have there is obviously physical stores are by their nature, they're restrained in terms of size and how many products you can have. As we're increasing our range to try and offer a more varied and larger product range, we can't physically fit those products in the store. So how do we bring that online massive range capability into the store? So if you're looking at a sofa, you can also see that we have 10 other similar sofas in different colors or styles or whatever. So it's bringing the online in store as well as the other way around.
One of the expectations that I have particularly, but I'm a technologist, so my expectations are slightly higher than average people. But one of the things that I really like, and I see that I crave that in every different sector. It's about I want to see how, like, I don't want to tell you what I want. I want you to tell me what good looks like. So I'm more than happy to, scan my house and then you tell me from what you have what could look like. And I like to say, well, we're going to autumn. Like, I have a budget of whatever X pounds. What can you give me that would make my house look a bit autumn? And then I'll do that for, the summer and the spring. So how far are we from getting there, from your point of view?
From our point of view, I think we've started to focus it sort of on the discoverability end of the top end of the funnel. How do you get people in? And I think there are certain companies that do this particularly well. There's one that I've been looking at recently, Temu, which is like a kind of a TikTok for e-commerce, if you like. It learns by what you're swiping on, what you like, and then gives you more of that. We're not at that point yet, but I think discoverability of product and being able to provide a relevant experience to customers based on their shopping preferences or purchase history or browsing history is something we're really interested in.
The challenge I have with that, because that's kind of what retail has been trying to do based on what you have done in the past. We tell you what you, the problem I have specifically with that is, like, I don't want to repeat my past. I might have liked those things. I might have bought them and I might have hate them, or I might be tired of them. So why do you want to just give me based on what I have done? Like do it in a different way. What do you think is the barrier for us to get from you being inside a big enough retailer? What are why can we not do it today?
I think that's one. I suppose we can to an extent, but it is with humans. So it's with experts who've got experience in product design and product trends and all that sort of thing. Bringing that together and having a sort of consultancy basis of, like, basically interior design. This is what your room would look like if you particularly like this kind of theme and you're interested in this trend. I think that's one area where AI could really contribute, is being able to understand from imagery and articles what a particular theme might be and where trends are heading as well, and then be able to bring that together. I mean, the ultimate is to be able to bring that together with, as you said, a scan of your house or even a photo of a room, and start implanting products from the retailer inside that room based on that customer's personal choices and preferences, and taking into account wider industry trends and norms as well, which would be ideal. But we're certainly not there yet.
What is the barrier? Why we are not there? Why do you think should be broken? What barriers should be broken for us to be able to have that?
From a technology point of view, I think
technology, and because I think it's different things. It's the capabilities of the retailer companies, their budgets, and their mentality. Like, can they even imagine to do that? Do you see that being something like it might be completely something that they don't see the trend, or the trend isn't even there justifiable based on crunching the numbers. So I'm not in retail. I don't know what the barriers are. I'm just a customer. I really want it to be.
And I think that there's probably bits of that. So obviously there's always a certain lag between identifying what trends are, or what's popular right now, what the trend is going to be, and what products we're going to get in for any particular season, for any particular segment of customers. And obviously there is time taken from that product being designed, that product being manufactured, to being shipped, and all the rest of it. So I think there's probably a bit of that. We're always ahead but behind. So we're planning 6 months or a year's time, but in 6 months or a year's time, trends might have changed, and then people might be demanding different things. So there's always a bit of a balance to get there. I think that there's things in the future that might change that in terms of having more localized, automated production of product. It wouldn't be appropriate in all cases, but if you imagine having like 3D printers in stores where customized, personalized,
that's the ultimate personalization.
That's it. Just we provide the design, you provide the name or the bit of writing to go on it or something, and choose your own color scheme, and then it's printed or manufactured somewhere locally and got to you quite quickly. So you've got a much leaner operation overall. But yeah, certainly for things like furniture, there's long lead times on that. So we really need to be ahead of the game as much as we can.
What I'm thinking is, like, what you're saying is completely, like, it's true, but it's a bit longer term when we can like really personalized produce stuff. But what I'm thinking about is what we have here, what you have produced, the combination of them that can be personalized. Or because as a customer, you don't necessarily know what makes you happy with what combination or what goes well. As you said, it's like having a really skillful interior designer all the time with you. And I know there are, like, from technology point of view, they are working on, like, there are popping up this interior designer, but they don't know your product. So if you could create one, and if I like the stuff you create, so for example, if I think clothes, if I like a brand, I know their fit works well on my body, or I like their styles and stuff. I don't want an interior design or a clothes designer to all the time come with different options for me. But I would like a designer or an AI version of a designer from that store for me. So whenever I want to buy from that store, they could help me to find the right thing. There is that element of, like, how justifiable it is, or how much do you think, knowing the sector, how much do you think it's practical for different brands to create their own AI interior designers, or whatever they are in. So if they are not in home stuff, they whatever else they are in, like, have that kind of personalized consultant that would work with you. That's one element. The other element is the agency, giving that a bit of agency. So it's not waiting for us, which could go, which could be a bit controversial. If I want somebody from your store know a bit more about me, so I would share a bit more about me, and then they would be proactively giving me ideas of what can happen. And that's the element of how much people would like to share. So for example, am I happy to share my mood data with that AI, so it can help to lift up my mood? If my mood is for a week is down, then it could suggest, I don't know, a new flower set or something that would, like, would lit up my mood in the, like, whatever. So it's like it should be done in a way, I think, that is protecting people's preference of how much data they want to share. But how much, from your point of view, how realistic is it, or how much the retail sector is up for breaking these kind of barriers?
Yeah, I think there's so it's sort of touching on, like, privacy and compliance and those sort of issues there, which I think is something that we're, as a country, we're probably quite immature with, especially in this fast moving area. So having I think people are quite happy to share things in a person to person environment, probably more than they would via some sort of technology. I do think that's the way it would be heading. So you'd have your own personal assistant that knows about you, doesn't share what it doesn't need to, but could also talk with assistants, retail assistants, and share whatever it needed to get the right results. I think from a retail perspective, whether our technology is quite there yet, I think it probably isn't. Certainly not in our case, to be able to automate that transaction. I suppose the further question which we'd have to ask is whether we'd want to. So whether removing the person in that context is beneficial. I think there is a certain sort of therapeutic aspect to being able to talk to people about what you'd like to happen, and then for a human to understand what you was talking about and make some recommendations and come up with an interior design together. But that said, the future probably will be that. So certainly for the first pass of whatever we want to get done, why not have something, have an AI that will create something that's like a straw person that you can then say, actually, no, I don't like pink curtains and I don't like orange cushions or something, and it'll get refined over time. And then maybe the human element comes in towards the end to refine it and make it.
Well, I think that would be a very, like, the maybe not short, a midterm scenario. I can see that happening, which is basically, yes, you create some sort of AI assistance, because it's all about scale, right? So if you want an interior designer or a personal stylist, it is expensive to get a good one. And it's a matter of, do you want a good one or do you want like an average one? And then you walk away and you're like, I really didn't get anything that I couldn't do myself. So he said there is a big difference in these things between an average, person and a really, really good one. And the really, really good one is expensive, has limited time, and so hence not everybody can access them. But if you put something in the middle that would become that good person, that good designer, for everybody, so you can access them. So it removes the barrier of time, so you can access them, whenever weekend, whenever you want, at whatever time. But then they would narrow down your needs and requirements, and then they would pass it on. So that really good designer might need to spend like 10 minutes on what their AI assistant has gathered, and then make some really cool decisions that would be the ultimate. And then you don't have to pay so much, because you're paying for a fraction of their time.
That's it. And the end result there is that interior designer who's really good and an expert ends up being able to service many more people. And it's kind of a moving on from if you wanted to have your bathroom redone and the bathroom provider asks you a set of questions for dimensions of the room and what color scheme and all that, rather than having a form that no one likes filling in, have some sort of interactive two-way experience where you refine your requirements based on something visual as well, so you can really see it. Yeah. And then the end result of that,
or just record your surroundings, and they would pick up those things. So you're recording your house, and they would pick up, I can see you really like bright lights. Is that correct? As opposed to like a dim kind of light, or you really like deep colors, and am I correct assuming these things? Or you have that because somebody has given you a gift and you can't be throwing it away. That's why it's in your house. So I think that definitely can remove some of the barriers of being able to interact with retailers in a completely different way. So in terms of you touched on constraints and privacy and those kind of stuff. Is there anything specific you're aware of in the UK that would be different from other parts of the world? Because the challenge with AI is being developed as a global thing, but then when we want to adopt it, we need to respect our regional, local, country kind of rules and regulations.
Yeah, I think there's a few. So there's the sort of the legal bits. So things like GDPR are obvious ones to call out. I think there's also a thing that I was reading about the weekend called something about algorithmic transparency standards or something. There's being developed by the government to be able to understand the reasoning and explanation behind how an AI tool has got to its results, which I think will be really key going forward. So that we can't just trust whatever an AI suggests, and that's been obvious with all the hallucinations and things.
Yeah, that's a very tricky one, because I do get to that conversation a lot, and I'm like, the nature of AI is it's an intelligence. So you if you have an intelligent being, you can't guess or you cannot understand how they're making decisions. You can ask them to explain, and they would give you an explanation. How correct is that? Well, we have all been there, that we explain the reasoning of why we have done what we have done, and it's not quite quite truthful in terms of like how much of your thinking you want to share with people. So I think that's where I think slightly we are getting into governments not fully understanding technology and trying their best to regulate something that is like, well, if it's really true intelligence AI and it's becoming more intelligent than human, like you cannot explain how it makes decisions.
Yeah, I think it'll vary by use case. So something where you ask for an opinion is probably going to be, or for an image to be generated, it's probably a little harder. But if you've got a local AI model that's trained on your sales data, and you say what are the top 3 performing products last month, and it just tells you these 3, you should be able to ask why, and it should be able to give you a reasonably, well, no, not more than reasonable, a very accurate picture of why it's come to that conclusion, and understand what it means by performance and what it means by best.
Yeah, but also that could change, because that's the beauty of AI. It keeps learning, right? So what it gives you today might be different from the reason it picks tomorrow. So it's like answering. Sorry, I'm getting into like government trying to regulate something they don't understand, and then they say something. I'm like, that doesn't quite work that way, but I get what it's sweet. You're trying to do something. Yeah.
It's a bit like cookie law resulting in every single website having a "Do you accept cookies OK" button, when it doesn't actually solve the problem. You can see the intention there, but
yeah, absolutely. So I think we talked about the expectations changing, and it's very much personalization, and it needs to be personalization to the level people are comfortable with. So if I'm comfortable to share more data, then I expect to be able to share more data and get more out of you. And if somebody isn't, then so it's exactly kind of mimicking what a personal designer would do. Like the more you share, the better they can help you. But if you're not happy to share certain things, then they can help you with that limitation. So I think creating that in a scale is expectation. Constraint, we talked about, like at the moment, most of the regulatory constraint is that we don't know how it's going to be regulated. So it's constant watching of what's coming and what's happening. I think one other constraint is the cultural constraint, and it's going to be a challenge for international retailers, because whatever they do is not going to work everywhere. How do they respect that cultural differences when they do that? I think it's really important.
And that probably operates internationally, so from the global audience, but also nationally as well. You'll have differences between city people and more rural people, or older people and younger people,
generations, and absolutely. Cultural differences are a massive thing. How do you even do something? How are you a business, which is what retailers are? How do you run as a business when your customers range from 8 years old to 8 years old? How do you cater for that whole range in terms of communication and experience that you're creating for them?
And in some ways, I suppose that's a bit of an extension on the personalization theme. So as well as being able to personalize to different customer segments, being able to do it in a way that's geographically sensitive or age sensitive or whatever else makes perfect sense commercially as well. So
absolutely. And then we touched on the business offerings and what is the promise of each brand, which we talked about. For example, if you're on Amazon, you're not promising to create touch and feel experience for people. Your promise is something else. Whereas yours, for example, the promise of your brand could be, I don't know, I'm just putting it out there. It could be that we want to create that blend. We would create that blend experience for you, that you can come and experience both sides, or whatever the promise of the brand is. That is a very big lens of how they do their digital evolution, which AI is going to be part of that. The core of, like, we go to the core of the bullseye, the center of it is the role of the human. What do you see the role of human in retail evolving short term, mid term, and long term? And any thoughts, any insights on that?
Yeah, I think so. Speaking from our particular business, we're always going to have humans helping. It's part of the core offer. So being able to provide that human touch that differentiates us from online pure plays or from other competitors as well that might be competing more heavily on price. Being able to have humans there and more than enough humans so that we can connect with every customer that come, welcoming them at the door and making sure that we're in the aisles when if the store coaches can help out customers in and around the store is great. I think as we'll always have a human in the loop as well. So although we might try out self-service checkouts or scan and go or something like that, there will always be that human element as well. So that because of the range of our customer base.
Why would you need that human? What is the role of that human wherever they are? If you could articulate what is it that you want that human to do, whatever their role is, and however that role changes over time, because you strongly say we are going to always have that human in our, because nobody, because you never see anybody from Amazon. So if Amazon replace every human with robots and whatever, nobody will even notice because we never see anybody in there. So, but you're saying something different. What is it that you think the human in your store do?
Yeah, I'd never say never longer term. So who knows, whatever. But certainly in the short term, a lot of the tasks that we're asking our colleagues to do in store are quite repetitive. So it's like, either you're checking out at a till, or you're replacing stock, or you're counting stock, or any of those sort of tasks. And the more we could reduce those tasks to free them up to do more higher level human to human conversations and relationship building and all of that sort of thing, I think that's where we'd see it in the short to mid-term. So moving from lots of these repetitive tasks to less of those and more of the customer relationship building and being able to make the customer's experience as fun and interesting and different as possible.
I see. I really like what you said, like making the customer experience different, making it fun, because I think as long as you have that as like the North Star of like this is what we do, and it might be you then start measuring your success based on the happiness of the customers, like how much fun they had. Like you create a metrics of like the KPI of like the fun of the customers, and then you measure that and you reward people based on that. So I think that's where I'm trying to get to, like whatever the role of the human is, then that becomes the core of the business, and you try to protect that thing, and then you will become famous for that. That you go to Amazon, you're not supposed to have fun, but you go to your stuff, you're gonna have fun while you shop. So that's what people would associate with, not just the great products, not just the personalized experience, but the fun you're gonna have if you go there, and that becomes what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And find something you didn't necessarily know you wanted as well. So you might, if things work well, you might come out with more than you intended, but in a good way.
Not sure how much my partner is going to be happy about that, but I will be definitely a happier customer if I find something I didn't want to. But yeah, wonderful. Is there
the
any
other thing actually just on that is dealing with the more complicated challenges. So certainly where customers have I don't know, in terms of refunds or returns or something like that, or something they're having some problem somewhere, having a human there is hard to beat in terms of resolving those kind of issues. I think that's another.
I'll slightly challenge you on that. Depends on what kind of human do you have. Like, do that human make your life better, or just drives you mad because they don't get you?
That is very true. Yeah.
There is one question whenever I'm asked, when it's more on the diversity side, but I think it applies to so many different things. When they ask me, "Oh, AI is not inclusive, so it has biases." I'm like, sure, it has. Nobody denies AI has biases. Whatever AI we create will have some inherent biases in it. But are you telling me humans don't? And are you telling me fixing the AI bias is harder than fixing human bias? Like, I would strongly argue against that. So it's all about like how much standard of experience and the consistency of experience we are creating using humans as opposed to an augmented of human and AI, how much more consistent the high standard experience we can create.
And actually, that might be a good answer there. So if humans are naturally biased and AI is going to have some bias in it, bringing them together should help eliminate some of that bias. Either that or make it twice as worse. No, I think it'll make it better.
Yeah, I think it could go either way depending on how we are designing it. Is there any let me change my question. I always ask, like, do you have any last word of wisdom? I will ask that, but before that, is there any cool use case of AI you have implemented or you have seen in the sector that you can share?
Yeah, so we're doing bits as that. We're sort of taking an approach where we're trying to not rush too quickly, so make sure we've got the data right in the first place. But we've been doing a lot of work around customer modeling, so being able to understand our customers better, segment them, understand when they're likely to leave us, or whether they what they are likely to buy next, given their purchase history. So that those sort of things. We're also using AI on the engineering side to help with finding bugs in code and like bits for code generation and that sort of thing. And we're also starting to see it pop up increasingly in hackathons as well. So I think we have a quarterly hackathon. Every one of the last 3 has featured at least 1 or 2 AI-based teams. But there's some cool ideas coming in there that. So we had an AI interior designer. So just to touch back on that again, not fully featured, but it's it's the gem of something that might become. But also even the standard things like being able to set a local AI model on top of our documentation in Confluence and in source control repositories, and be able to ask that questions in natural language about the documentation we have is a lifesaver. And doing the same with company policies as well. So rather than having to trawl through 1,200-page documents, you can just sort of ask a question and see the response. So I think those are the things that we're sort of seeing at the moment, but there's so many potential ideas.
And how does it make you feel as a technology leader in retail? How does the state of current AI engagement adoption, how does it make you feel?
I mean, you'd be hard pushed not to be excited. So to see how far it's come in the last 12 to 24 months is, genuinely surprising. Being able to see it being used in an everyday way, like I literally use it every day. We see the engineers who are paying for tooling out of their own money because it's such a useful tool to have. I think it's exciting. That there is certainly loads of unanswered questions at the moment, and there's going to be lots of interesting conversations around the regulatory side and compliance and so on. But I think it really could change things significantly for the better, especially in certain use cases. But I think the end result will be customers will get a better experience, and more tricky things will be democratized, so more people can have a go at doing them, which can only be a good thing. So
you see the future brighter rather than darker?
I'm very much a future is bright kind of guy.
Wonderful. And your word of wisdom to leave for our audience? I
think augmentation over replacement is my key message, and that's the one I try and hammer home to anyone who will listen. This is this powerful tool, but AI is a tool. Being able to use it to augment your workforce and yourself, I think, is one of the key things we could do in the next couple of years. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul. Lovely to talk to you, and I look forward to see and hear what else you do in the retail sector in the next few months. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us in the Innovation Room.
We hope it sparks some ideas.
Want to learn more about what we do?
Maybe you could even be our next guest.
And spark some ideas yourself.
Find us at Geeks Limited.
And join us again soon.
Because real change never stops.